What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Mm-mm. Much better, much better. Oh, man, trying to kill me. What's good? What's good? What's good? Welcome to the stream. What's good? Trying to back up right now. Best son in the game. He saw him here first. He saw him here first. What is he doing?
The centers and people that are trying to defend you throw their hand up, or it makes them commit to you early so that you can go around them and lay it up. If you're familiar with how to use the shot stick, and I put a tutorial out about that yesterday, you can actually go up, they'll go up, and then you can adjust with the shot stick, and you can make layups and stuff like that. Teardropper is probably going to be a really good badge this year because of the shot stick. When I make my it's not by any means one of the top badges, but because of the shot stick, it should be one of the better badges in the game. When I make my guard build, we'll see how that goes. Now, the second badge, contact finishing. Slithery and contact work together in great tandem. Just because they throw their hand up, and even if they do recover and get back to you, you dunking on them, you finish them with contact. That's good. Giant Slayer is okay, but I would go with consistent finisher is probably one of the third best badges because you know you just get to finish your layups and stuff like that through contact consistently. Relentless finisher, very good badge. These are the top badges. So if I had to rank them, I would say Slithery is number 1, contact is number 2, relentless is number 3. Consistent is number 4. Fancy, we don't know how the hop steps and stuff are yet, so that's what I'm just going to say is number 5. Everything else is probably, if you're a big man, back down Punisher, yeah, but other than that, man, everything else is probably just like, meh, at best. Cross key score, if you shoot a lot of fades and stuff across the key, probably going to be one of the better badges, but, and then of course Lob City is going to be up there just because you want to be able to catch your lobs and all of that good stuff. But that's and Protex, I've not seen it. I guess it would be good, but the only reason I say Protex is not that good, just because I use the stick. So if you don't use the stick, maybe Protex is going to help you out. But let's just go to the next one. We'll do shooting last. Defensive badges. Look, man, it depends on what you play. This badge right here is the best badge in the game. Intimidator. You need Intimidator so people can't hit shots in your face and stuff like that. Now, after that, if you're a perimeter guy, you got to go with Clamps. Clamps is going to be, you probably want Clamps first if you're a perimeter, but Clamps and Intimidator, 1A and 1B. Then, if you're, after that, after that, if you're somebody to play on the perimeter, you can really do what you want. You can go interceptor, pickpocket. I don't use those guys. Tireless defender, these are good badges. But if you're on the perimeter, Clamps and Intimidator, and if I had 9, I would probably go Clamps, Intimidator, Pick Dodger. If I had only 9 badges, because you know you got to be able to get around those screens, and you need pick Dodger and Silver so you don't get knocked over by screens so much. Then after that, you can really do what you want to. If you're a big man, you gotta have box and rebound chaser first. Then you want to go rim protector, probably put one on takedown artist, but you have to have intimidator too, so people can't just make shots. The way that it is this year, the weight of a player really makes a difference. You can't just go in there and lay the ball up on a big man anymore if he's got a lot of strength. So that's why I say if I'm a big man, I go rebound chaser first, put some on box. Well, I go intimidator first, then rebound chaser box. Gotta have pogo. Pogo on silver will keep you from jumping and falling and stuff like that, so you'll be good with that. Moving trunk is a very good badge if you're a light guy, but nobody's gonna be able to back me down because I got 99 strength and I got that. Pickpocket, I really don't like pickpocket for big men. Interceptor is cool if you're one of those lane spamming guys, but I got a 54 steal and I'm getting steals out there, so it's not a big deal. And I'm talking about in part two. Really, other than that, brick wall if your guy likes to set screens. And you just put one on chase down artist and probably max out rim protector. But you just need one on chase down artist so you can lock down, unlock the animation. So chase down on bronze, pogo on silver, and then probably put clamps on silver. Also, if you're a big man, so you can cut off people driving because they're letting you do that this year. And then you're gonna go intimidator. I would put intimidator first though, and rebound chaser first, and then with your ancillary badges, this is the first things you need to be picking up: pogo, and then probably put two on clamps. I would max out box, especially if you're undersized, because the big guys with 95, you're not able to box them out if you don't have a high box. And then brick wall if your guy likes to do stuff, and one right here, and then max that out. That's what I would do. Up next, shooting badges. Look, man, I'm smacking in the park, and this is all I got. The first badge that you want to put on is going to be range extender. Put on range extender before you put on anything else. And catch and shoot. I was much more consistent. So do that. Then you can probably go corner specialist. Depending on how you shoot, hot zone hunter or corner specialist, they're interchangeable. I want to put on green machine this year, and I want to test out flexible release, but we just have to see how the game is going to go. I'm just saying, if you're starting the game out, these are the ones you got to have right off the bat. Range extender, I would probably put that on Hall of Fame first, and then probably put, then adjust to how you play. Deadeye, you probably only need that on bronze, just like last year. But corner specialist, I would put that. That's a very important badge. And then these are the main ones right here. Range extender first. Then depending on how you shoot. If you are a guard and you dribble around, you go hot zone first, and then probably put one on dead eye. But if you're a catch and shoot person, you're gonna put obviously catch and shoot first, so it works from everywhere. And then you're gonna put on corner specialist, and you're gonna go from there. Flexible release, we're gonna see how that works. I'm gonna test that out, and we're gonna put a video out about that later. But you know, we're gonna see how that goes. Volume shooter and all the other stuff, those are the luxury badges. But the ones you gotta have range extender, corner, catch, and hot zone, just depending on how you play. And then last but not least, I don't have a playmaking bill, so it'd be hard for me to tell y'all what to put on, but these are the ones you really gonna want to put on right here. Probably the first thing you're gonna want to put on is handles for days. Handles for days, and then dimer and floor general. You gotta have quick first step. So handles for days, quick first step is what I would go first, just so I can get my rocks off. Then I'll probably help my team out, go down the floor general. Unpluckable, you might need that this year. I've seen a lot of people getting plucked this year, so you know it really depends on it really depends on how you want to play it. But this is Dream Shake, all this stuff. Ankle breaker, we don't know how that works yet. But those are your most important badges. Stop and go, I think, is going to be a very important badge too. I've heard a couple people say that you can't really do what you want to do without stop and go, just like that. So that's it for the badges portion. Now we got to get on to the rant, man, just because of the fact that 2K likes to do things. And I'm not going to lie to y'all, man. They actually, it's not bad. This game is not bad at all. And when I'm telling y'all it's not bad, I'm really saying it's not a bad game at all. I feel like this could be one of the better 2Ks in a very, very long time. But with the servers being down on yesterday, I don't know. And look, we just playing some come-ups out here today, bro. I don't know. Like, this is what we got out here. So I can only play who's in front of me, but I'm only at 83, so it is what it is. Like I said, man, one of the things that I will tell y'all about 2K is this. Every year, the launch is something else. I'm okay with the game. I've gone out to the park. As you can see, I'm out here playing with no clothes on. I'm butt naked. What is this? Bro, I don't know what I am right now. A brown shirt or whatever. But from my perspective, it's one of the better 2Ks I've played in a while, but the servers still suck. And when I'm telling you the servers still suck, man, what I'm really telling you is, it's like it's like you're playing the game, but I feel like I'm in mud. Now, on yesterday, you couldn't even get in the park. You couldn't play park. You couldn't play pro-am. You could come into the park and stuff like that. But when you came into the park or pro-am and tried to play, the game just stayed there and inevitably never went anywhere. It's just like you stuck on the spot, so you had to quit out the game and stuff like that. I didn't have a problem with that because I was really in my career all day yesterday trying to get this guy badged up, and I will be grinding in my career on Twitch right after this if y'all want to check it out. But I'm just saying, it's one of those things where it's just like, I don't understand why 2K can't get the service quite right ever at launch anytime. My guy feels super slow, super sluggish, super just like I feel like I can't do anything at all. And like I got 65, 64 speed right now. I understand I'm only at 83 and I know speed is tied to all of this stuff, man, but I just feel like it's overly slow in the park right now. And like, obviously speed kills, don't get me wrong, but I just really feel like they could have done a little bit better with the service this year. You guys let me know if you agree. Let me know what you guys think about it. And yes, I am in the park shooting with the stick. Even though it is hard, I'm still able to shoot with the stick. I'm still able to hit shots. And a lot of people are like, oh, you can hit in my cup, but no, bro, I can shoot. If you can shoot, you can shoot. It's way harder to me shooting in my career than it was in the park. And I don't even think I had catch on this game. But that's what I'm only rocking catch and shoot. And I'm only rocking range extender, and that's what you really have to have. But I will tell you this: even with all of that, the gameplay seems very good. It just seems very good. It is responsive. It is. It's crazy because it's like you feel slow and sluggish. Like when I press the button, my guy moves, but he just feels like I'm just slow as hell, just getting up and down the court. And it's really hard to explain. Like the gameplay online seems much slower than it is offline. I don't think it's like that every year because my guy didn't feel this slow last year. I didn't feel like I was overly slow, overly not able to do anything. I didn't really feel like that last year, but this year it just feels like and I don't know if it's because yesterday they turned the service off and they did some stuff like that and they made some changes. They try to make everything be a little bit better. But the park is playable. It's very good. It's a good experience. I just feel like there's something going on with the service to where, and it's probably so it's just a little latency out there. Like, and you can tell it from game to game because some games you'll shoot with the stick, it'll be nice and smooth when it goes when you're trying to position the stick. But other games the stick is just jumping like and when it does that, I gotta shoot with the square at that point in time. But overall, gameplay. I mean, overall the park experience is actually pretty good. It's just crazy that right now it feels like I'm lagging from game to game. Some games you'll be playing, everything's good. You're like, okay, this is dope. Then you'll play the next game and it'll feel like, bro, I am lagging my balls off. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I can do. I don't know what I need to do. But that's really my only complaint. Jump shooting.
So my favorite way of investing is to take just a tiny bit of money and make it worth more than what we've started with. But the problem is that's just not quite enough money yet. So let's make it worth a lot more by taking it and making it worth a lot more. That's my favorite way of investing. But my second favorite way is with ETFs, which is what this video is all about. Let's begin. Hi, my name is Andre Jick. Welcome back. Hope you had a great week. And let's get right into the top 10 ETFs, or exchange traded funds, which think of them like this simple deck of cards, which let's say is worth $20. Now your $20 will be spread out amongst all of these different stocks right here contained inside of this one fund. Now some of these companies or stocks will be worth more than others, but the point of trying to do this is to achieve full diversification, which is just a fancy way of saying that even though you might have a favorite playing card, you still need the entire deck of cards to be able to play that game of investing effectively. If that analogy made zero sense, all I'm trying to say is that I'm really good with a deck of cards, but also never to have all of your money into one playing card, because if you lose that playing card, you lose all your money, and that's never stonks. Now, as of right now, there are more than 2,000 ETFs to pick from, which means it is very difficult to decide which of the ETFs are best to buy right now. So I want to share with you my top 10 favorite ETFs. This is by no means the be-all, end-all guide of the best ETFs. This is just what one random guy on the internet's opinion is. And remember, I play with playing cards, so keep all that in mind. Now, the first 5 I'm going to share with you are going to be growth-oriented, and the other 5 are going to be cash flow or dividend-oriented, which means I don't actually have to sell those ETFs in order to make money because they pay me either monthly or quarterly. Now, there are pros and cons to both of them, but hopefully this guide will at least point you in the right direction so you can decide which of these ETFs works best for you. And remember, you can pick more than just one ETF. You can pick 2, 3, 4, 5, as many as you want. So having said all that, let's dive right into the top 5 growth ETFs. And coming in at number 1 is VT. Let me ask you something. How many stocks do you want to own? Yes, by owning one VT stock, you own the entire world. You own the US market, you own the international market. You're basically a James Bond villain at this point. But if you believe that the world will be in a better place 20 to 30 years from now, you're going to do good, and you might want to consider this ETF. Now, because it is so diversified, it's only returned around 5.7% since the fund was created in comparison to US markets, which has returned around 7%. But Vanguard thinks that in the next 10 years, international markets are going to do better than US markets. But Warren Buffett, who's the smartest investor in the world, disagrees. But regardless of which is true, one thing is true, and that's that no one has a clue. Pro tip, by the way, you can own something like VT, but at a slightly cheaper expense ratio by owning a combination of around 55% VTI and 45% VXUS. In doing this, you'll save yourself a tiny bit of money, especially if you have buku bucks where 0.01% will make some difference. It's just another way of doing it. And at number 2 is QQQ. Now, this is a very popular investment option, and I want to cover it. In the early 1900s, things like steel, material, and heavy industry was the sector to invest in. We were building railroads, bridges, roads, infrastructure, so that sector boomed. But nowadays, it's just a stable dividend sector with nothing to brag about. Today, of course, the hot sector is technology, and we've got companies like Apple, Google, MySpace. Just checking to see if you're still awake. Smash the like button if MySpace Tom was your only friend. But by owning QQQ, you're going to own more than 100 companies from the NASDAQ that is very heavily weighted in technology. And because we are entering the age of technology, 20 to 30 years from now, we could look back at this moment in history and think, wow, 2020 was just the beginning of technology. We thought it was overpriced. Or 30 years from now, we could look back and think, 2020 was way overvaluing technology and the best products were already created. But generally speaking, sector dominance is usually temporary or cyclical. And I know it's very tempting to look at that graph and just assume it's going to keep on growing like that for the next 10 years. And maybe it will, because with great power comes great responsibility, Peter, which means if you want those big returns, you have to take a bigger risk. So if you're younger, this fund might be for you, but just remember, this fund's beta is at 1.13, which means it's a little bit more volatile than the general stock market, which also means you better like emotional roller coasters because you just bought yourself a one-way ticket. And coming in at number 3 is ARK Fund, or ARKK. Now, this one is an actively managed fund versus a passively managed one. An actively managed one means that there is a real human being who's working day and night to find these stocks. And for that reason, we have to pay a higher expense ratio of 0.75%, which means $75 for every $10,000 that we invest here, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually a lot of money when comparing it to a lot of other funds. But this one specifically is run by Kathy Wood, who looks at disruptive technologies to try to outperform the market. And she actually has, because one of the core holdings of ARK is Tesla, and it's performed incredibly well this year. Get this, in the last year alone, ARK has performed 65% gains, which is insane when comparing the overall stock market return, which has an average of 7% per year versus 65%. But its greatest strength is also one of its greatest weaknesses because it's actively managed. And there's very little evidence to show that humans can beat passively managed funds over many decades of time. There's just very little evidence to say that we as humans can pick better stocks than just following the market trends. So yes, this year it might be up 65%, but maybe next year technology doesn't do quite as well and it won't perform as well. But regardless, if you are an ultra aggressive investor for growth, then you might want to consider this stock. Coming in at number 4 is the VOO, which is Vanguard's S&P 500 ETF, which is a fancy way of saying that it tracks the top 500 companies in the whole United States, and you really can't go wrong with this one. It's a core holding in a lot of people's portfolios, and its closest siblings would be something like SDY or SPY or SPY, because I Russian. But actually, SPY, according to some studies, because it's got a cooler sounding ticker symbol, might actually help it perform better than other non-cooler sounding ticker symbols. It's weird. And lastly, number 5 is my personal favorite, and that is VTI. Every single working person in America, every single CEO with their fancy suits and ties is working every single day to make you more money. It's a really cool feeling because you can walk into any store in the US, pick up an item and say, I own this. But only theoretically, because if you try to run out with that item, you'll probably get arrested. But don't try to explain to the officer that you own 0.0000001% of that item because you own VTI. It won't go well. Trust me. But my top 2 favorite growth ETFs, VTI and VOO, are both virtually the same, with VOO being just slightly better, but they both own the top 10 companies that are the exact same thing, but really they are interchangeable. And if you like big companies, then you should go with VOO, and if you want to own all the companies, then just go with VTI. But you'll not go wrong with either one of them, and you don't have to pick one or the other. You could just own both, and that's fine as well. But pro tip, if you buy something like VOO or VTI and you put in 80% of your money into that and the other 20% into VBTLX, which is a bond ETF to smooth the ride, as JL Collins says, then you can be set for the rest of your life. You can literally stop watching this video. But please don't, because you'll miss out on the cash flow and the passive income dividend ETFs, and I'll miss out on the ad revenue. But I love this fund so much that I put it all inside my ML Finance Roth retirement account, and I did a video with that. You can watch it. Please use the link down below to help my wallet. You don't have to. Please do. Now let's talk about cash flow or dividend-oriented ETFs. Now these can pay either monthly or quarterly. It's a 25-cent piece. It took me forever to do that move. And coming in at number 5 is Noble. Now if dividend aristocrats could have their own ETF, then this is literally it, because the only companies inside of here are ones that have increased their dividend for 25 straight years or longer. That's pretty cool. Even though the dividend yield is only 2.2%, they've grown that dividend by about 12% in the last 5 years. The downside is you're going to trade a lot of growth for that stability. But not everybody cares about the yield, so you might want to consider adding this one to your portfolio, especially if you're older and you really value that stability and the pedigree and history of having companies pay you on time. Coming in at number 4 is SCHD, which is the Charles Schwab U.S. Equity Dividend Fund. This one has a sweet spot yield of 3.44%. It's dirt cheap to own at just $6 for every 10K invested. It's grown in value over time, which is exactly what we want to see. And in the last 5 years, it's grown its dividend by 10%, which is great. In the last year alone, it's grown its dividend by 20%. It pays us quarterly, and it's just an all-around solid dividend ETF. And coming in at number 3 is VIG, which stands for very good. No, it doesn't. It stands for Vanguard's Dividend Appreciation Fund. It accepts companies that have increased their dividends for 10 plus years. Now, its dividend yield is only at 1.81%, but what it lacks in yield, it makes up for in growth, because it's a grower, not a shower. But one way to substitute VIG is with DGRO, which is the exact same principle, except the companies in this ETF are ones that have increased their dividends by 5 plus years. But the two are almost identical. And coming in at number 2 is VYM, which is Vanguard's High Dividend Yield ETF. Right now its yield is at 3.5%, and since the fund was created, it has returned an average of around 6.7%, which is pretty in line with the stock market. It's got a really dirt cheap expense ratio of 0.06% as well, and by owning this one stock, you will own 428 different stocks, which means you will be extremely well diversified. There's not that many bad things I can say about it. It's an all-around amazing ETF, which I'd like to own more of. And at number 1 is SPHD. Now, I have around $6,700 invested into this one, and it's paying me around 5.5%, which is an extremely high yield, but it's got a pretty high expense ratio to boot, 0.3%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it is actually a lot. The good thing, though, is that it pays me monthly, but it's not necessarily my number 1 favorite. I like a lot of these on this top 5 list for different reasons. Some of them have better growth and lower yield, and other ones have lower growth and higher yield. It's a balancing act, but whichever one you choose, you really can't go wrong with any of these. But before you quit this video thinking, cool, got my list, never seeing that guy's videos again, not so fast, because if you don't watch this next part, you're going to make this very common mistake. You're going to open up your brokerage account, you're going to look through all the other dividend ETFs that people are buying, and you're going to see one that's called SDIV, the Super Dividend ETF, which sounds like what my childhood dreams are made of. No, but seriously, imagine a Super Saiyan ETF. At least I transformed into a Super Saiyan right away instead of screaming at you for half an hour before I did it. But anyway, you're going to find SDIV and you're going to see the monstrous 12% dividend yield. You're going to see that it pays you monthly and that you could earn more money with $100,000 than I'm earning with $200,000. So why not then just put all of your money into SDIV?
Andre was an idiot. I found something way better.
There's a few reasons why you shouldn't do this. And reason number one, it's got a pretty high expense ratio of 0.6%, which doesn't sound like a lot when you're making 12%, right? Not exactly, because when you have a dividend yield that high, that means it's probably investing in companies that are unstable and whose prices are falling lower and lower, because there's an inverse relationship between the dividend yield and the price. As the price gets lower, the dividend yield goes higher. And because of that, look at what the SDIV stock price has done since 2011. You see that? That's your money curling up into a fetal position like Voldemort at King's Cross. But if you invested $100,000 in 2011, sure, you would have made some money with your dividends. But after all that time, your $100,000 would be worth less than half of what it was when you originally invested. So it's almost like you're not really making money, you're just robbing it from one place and putting it somewhere else, but as you're running, the bills are just falling behind you, so you're actually not doing anything. And that's what's called a value trap, which is a mistake a lot of people will make because they didn't get to this point in the video. Remember that investing is a long-term game, and you're better off going with something more conservative today, something like a 2% dividend yield, because 20, 30 years from now, after holding that fund, you could increase your yield on cost to something like 4 or 5, 6% or even more. And we want that trifecta, right? We want that principal equity to grow in value, meaning the stock price itself is increasing. We want those dividend payouts, and we want those dividend payouts to increase over time. But